I'm in a meeting on Zoom. Bye.
So, Mr. Johnston, when we do votes on meetings or on items, when Chairman McKnight calls for the vote, if you will just verbally say your name and then how you wish to vote, we can manually record that in for you, okay?
Thank you. What? Oh. Well,
Mr.
I'm
Noble,
a Zoom meeting.
check your sound, please.
Well, honey, I'm gonna go, why don't you go back where, maybe sit in Bill's yard? I'm gonna go walk around.
Okay.
What did they have to say? Did you talk to them? Katie and Clay.
We cannot hear you. If you'll go to right next to where your little mute symbol is, there's an arrow. If you click that arrow, you can double check what microphone is set up on your system. Sometimes they reset and it doesn't reset correctly. So if you'll go to where it says select a microphone, and there should be like built-in microphone or same as system or whatever it is, you might try and toggle back and forth on that. And you can also go under audio settings.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
There we go. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thanks. I had to switch that.
Okay. You're welcome.
Good morning, Don.
Morning, Hal.
So, Mr. Chairman, we still only have 4 members currently present, so we don't have quorum yet.
Okay, we need one more.
We need a 6 for quorum. So I do see a couple other people logged in on PrimeGov. They just haven't logged into Zoom yet, so hopefully they will join us shortly.
Very good.
Lakeisha or Mark Michaud, you may check with Mr. Dixon and Mr. Thompson to see if they're having issues getting into Zoom. I show both of them in PrimeGov. They're just not on Zoom yet.
Sorry, Dixon and who, please?
Mr. Thompson, Sandino. Which attorney do I have on the line with us today?
It's Craig Keith.
Thank you, Craig. I've allowed you to speak in case you need to.
Thank you. Right now I'm on my phone. I have not been able to get my computer to come up.
That's
And
fine.
I'm
You can just mute your phone,
Oh.
But I've given you the option to be allowed to speak.
Thank you, Mickey, and have a nice day.
You too.
Bye.
Okay, this is Steve. Sorry, I'm in.
All right. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Steve.
Good morning.
All right, Mr. Chair, we're just waiting on one more person.
Sounds like a good song title.
Just need some guitar or piano instrumental in the background, right?
Yes.
How about the sound of the city chainsaw? I got plenty of that on my street.
Good morning, Sandino.
Hello. Sorry I'm late. I have to go and find my emails to figure out what I'm doing. It seems like it kind of changed from month to month. So
Now, I do show that you've lost your connection in PrimeGov. I don't know if that device went to sleep or if you just need to refresh the screen.
well, we're gonna see.
Let me refresh my screen too. Maybe I lost connection.
Looks like I'm in here.
Okay, yes, it does show you connected now. 1, 2, 3, 4. But I've lost somebody else. Let's see here. Mr. Chairman, are you still connected in PrimeGov? I don't show you in there anymore.
Yes, I believe I am.
Can you click refresh on that?
I did.
Is it showing you the agenda?
Well, I had it. I don't know what's going on.
So what screen are you seeing?
I'm not. Bill. Mickey, I should be back on now. Do you see it? Am I back on Prime Gov?
I'm not seeing you in the meeting yet.
Did you see him earlier?
Yes, I did.
Hmm.
It's almost like his device may have went to sleep.
Okay, I'm gonna just
All right,
try.
there it is. He's back now.
Uh-oh, well, I just went out of it, so I'll be right back. Is he still in?
Give me just a second here. I'm refreshing my screen, make sure. I may be having a little bit of lag too. Yes, I still show him in.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chairman, you have quorum, so you should be ready to go now.
Wonderful. Thank you for all your work. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining the City of Oklahoma City Video Conference Community and Neighborhood Enhancement Advisory Board meeting for November 2nd, 2020. As you're aware, during the state of emergency in place during the COVID-19 pandemic and in compliance with state and local stay-at-home orders, no physical location will be provided for this meeting. The meeting will instead be live streamed from remote locations. We want to remind everyone that as you have arrived in our virtual meeting, we have muted your mic. We have a few announcements to make regarding the virtual meeting. If the video conference is disconnected at any time during the meeting shall be stopped and reconvene once the audio connection is restored. If communications are unable to be restored within 30 minutes, items remaining for consideration will be continued to Monday, November 9th at 10 a.m. via teleconference. Anyone wishing to speak about an agenda item or public hearing or to speak under citizens to be heard, please call 405-297-2406 or email mark.mishoe, MISHOE, at okc.gov. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to comment. When you call in, staff will be muting your line. Please keep your lines on mute until you are recognized to speak. To unmute your phone, press *6. We ask all participants, except the board members, keep their lines on mute until they are recognized to speak. Board members will be allowed to speak. Board members will be allowed to ask questions or comment at any time during the meeting. Please remember that only one person can be heard at a time. If more than one person speaks, we will not hear you both. For anyone speaking today, including board members, please identify yourself when you begin to speak. The agenda and documents discussed in this meeting are located on okc.gov. I will call this meeting to order. We do have a quorum, I am told. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Excellent. This meeting has begun. Thank everyone for being here. We cannot approve our minutes until next time. Is that correct?
That is correct, Chairman. If you will just announce that item is being struck from the agenda.
Okay, that item is being struck from the agenda. That brings us to 3A, street resurfacing projects. Brock?
Good morning. This is Mike Clark. We appreciate the efforts of the board to attend today's meeting and our staff's work to get everyone logged in. In keeping with all the other challenging situations we have faced this calendar year, last week 2020 brought an unprecedented ice storm into the metro area. As always, we hope your family is safe, and we extend our thoughts to those without power or who have suffered property damage. The action items on today's agenda are follow-ups to items introduced last month. Approval of the sidewalk project at South Lake Elementary School, approval for allocating the excess collections distribution of trails into the Deep Fork Trail project. However, we are just as excited to reintroduce Josh Malwick with Atkins to provide insight for the Meridian and Northwest 10th Street enhancement projects. Susan Atkinson with Planning will also be on hand
Help.
to offer additional thoughts on the anticipated impact of both projects. Brock Miner, Lakeisha Dunbar, and Melinda McMillan Miller will all make project presentations for you today. If you have questions or comments at any point during the meeting, we will be happy to address them. Brock will now give an update on their resurfacing projects.
Thank you, Mike. This is Brock. Mark, we can start on the second slide there. The category allocations, the second slide. Let's go two slides up. There we go. And here's the category allocations. And as you see that some of the percentages have changed and went down a little bit as we had the excess collections approved by City Council. So we put that money in the appropriate category. And so some of that's went down. And as we approved projects allocated towards those individual items, then some of those percentages will go up a little bit. I thought I'd give kind of a brief explanation how some of them, I felt like we were all around 96, 97%, and some of those have went down a little bit, and that's the reason why we've put those excess collections in there. Okay, next slide, Mark. Thank you. Yeah, and this brings us to our item 3A1, our street resurfacing projects. I don't have a lengthy update, but just kind of give our normal update, In street resurfacing, we have 168 million. We chose to kind of split that up in between arterial and residential projects. This board has approved, we approved an additional 6 projects in our arterial. So that brought us to 118 projects that we've approved in the arterial category. And we still have 20 projects approved in the residential. If you look at the total funds that have allocated to all the street resurfacing, we're right at around 96, 97% of approval on those projects. And like always, as we have additional projects that complete and we have give backs, we'll bring those back to the board and hopefully have opportunities to continue to bring more projects forth and continue to finish out those projects. And really, that's all I had. If y'all have any questions, I'd like to answer those. If not, I'll turn it over to Lakeisha Dunbar and Planning to go over item 3B1.
Good morning. This is Lakeisha Dunbar, Transportation Program Planner from the Planning Department, and I will be starting with item 3B1, Street Enhancement Project Status Update. If you can go to the next slide, please. Beginning with the Paseo Walker project, the project is 15% conceptual plans have been submitted to the city. Proposed improvements include ADA compliant sidewalk, landscaping, rain gardens, pedestrian lighting, pavement resurfacing, and additional parking. A stakeholder meeting and greet was held to inform the stakeholders of the design aspects of the streetscape projects. A rain garden report was submitted to the city in July, and coordination meetings and educational sessions have been held with the Paseo Arts Association to discuss design aspects in rain gardens. Renderings and maintenance responsibilities for the proposed rain gardens were submitted to the city in October, and we continue to discuss with city staff and stakeholders in the Paseo Art Districts regarding rain gardens and the design options. The 10th and Vermont project, a notice to proceed to reconstruction was issued on October 20th, and the project scope was expanded to extend sidewalk along the south side of 10th Street to Meridian, for a total length of sidewalk to be installed about 0.27 miles. And extending eastward was originally part of the project, but it's proven to be infeasible due to utility conflicts. For the Portland and the Portland Avenue 23rd through 36th Street project, I'd like to report that traffic counts were being completed at the end of the week of October 23rd. And this is to look at additional pedestrian signal locations. The traffic analysis will be completed in November for submittal to Transportation and the Traffic Commission. Development of the preliminary 60% plans are currently in design and currently reviewing areas of needed right-of-way for acquisition. And then lastly, they're reviewing proposed changes to commercial frontages in order to coordinate with property owners. I'd like to report, though, that this is not a sales tax project, but we do have a Portland Avenue from 10th to 23rd Street that'll abut immediately adjacent to the street enhancement project. And this is from Portland from 10th to 23rd. And this project is at 65% completed design to be submitted was submitted in September. And 95% plans are scheduled to be submitted for January 21st. So this is just to say that, we will have a full coordination of probably about a 2-mile long corridor. Hopefully that could be bid at about the same time. Moving on to the Northwest 39th Street project. This project has a fixed limit of construction of $1.68 million. And the base bid includes for 39th Street between Penn and Young's. And with the design, it's been determined that there are 2 alternates. Alternate 1 includes between Barnes and 39th Street to 40th. And then alternate 2 includes 40th between Barnes and Penn. The construction documents were on the City Council agenda October 26th. And we anticipate putting the project out to bid by November 18th, with an anticipated construction begin date in early January 2021. And then lastly, I will discuss the status of the Auto Alley project. The consultant met with Public Works Planning, downtown Oklahoma City, and Automobile Alley representatives on October 9th to review the scope of the work, the budget, and the district priorities. A separate street resurfacing project has been rescheduled so that it will be combined in terms of schedule and coordinated in terms of scope. The next meeting should include a discussion of design options. So that concludes my status update on the projects. I do not have an update at this time on the Northeast 23rd Street project, the Plaza area, or the Stockyards projects, particularly as the Northeast 23rd Street project and the Stockyards area projects are moving forward as working at looking to expand the scope of those projects. So if there are no questions on the projects that I just presented on, which were the Paseo and Walker, the 10th at Vermont, the North Portland Avenue project, and the Northwest 39th Street project, at this time, if there are no questions on that, I will hand it over to Josh Malwick with Atkins, who will give a presentation on the Meridian Avenue and the Northwest 10th projects. But before I do that, I want to make sure, are there any questions on the status of the projects that I presented on thus far? Okay, next slide, please. So at this time, I'm going to hand it over to Josh Malwick with Atkins, and he was going to do a presentation on the Meridian Avenue and the Northwest 10th project. Thank you.
Thanks, Keisha. We can go ahead and go to that first slide, please. Right there. Good morning. As Keisha said, my name is Josh Malwick, and I'm with Atkins North America. I'm in front of you again today to update you on 2 of the sales tax street enhancement projects, the Meridian Avenue project between Northwest 16th Street and Northwest 23rd Street, and the Northwest 10th Street project between Council Road and Rockwell Avenue. Next slide, please. To get started, I'd like to briefly take a moment to give you some information about Atkins. Our office was set up in Norman in 2003, and we have since expanded with an office in Tulsa. Our Norman office consists of 30 staff members who work on either transportation and traffic design or construction management projects. Some of us are fortunate enough to be able to work on both sides of that. Our experience with Oklahoma City has primarily been street enhancement projects, but we have designed some roadway widening projects as well. Our engineers have significant training in ADA design of pedestrian facilities, as well as hands-on experience in the field. The combination of specialized training and construction experience makes Atkins a great fit for these types of street enhancement projects. Next slide, please. To begin, I'll discuss the Meridian Avenue project. Originally, the planned limits were between Northwest 16th and Northwest 30th Street. During meetings with planning staff, we reviewed the proposed scope north of Northwest 23rd Street along the east side. We determined that there's not enough available right-of-way and there are too many utility or sign conflicts to be able to construct the sidewalk within the current budget. Next slide, please. We can, however, design a continuous sidewalk from Northwest 16th Street to the previously improved Northwest 23rd Street along the west side of Meridian. The continuity of this path will provide access to the Windsor Hills Shopping Center and the surrounding businesses at the 23rd Street intersection. The project would also provide access to the E.B. Jeffrey Park near the south end of the project at 16th Street, and will improve the east-west crossing on the south side for pedestrians. On the images you'll see on the next slide, the preferred pedestrian path is clearly defined in unpaved areas. This reinforces that this project will greatly improve accessibility for a large number of pedestrians. Before beginning the design, we have evaluated the possible right-of-way conflicts throughout the proposed limits. We believe there are 4 locations where the new facilities will have to be constructed outside of the existing right-of-way. 2 locations are driveways that are too steep, and the minimum slopes will require the driveways to extend further beyond the existing right-of-way. Typically, we're able to get right-of-way right-of-entry agreements with property owners before construction. The other 2 parcels conflict with the proposed sidewalk and driveways. To continue making progress, we're working with planning staff to communicate with the business owners to discuss the right-of-way. At the same time, we've got surveyors researching easements with Oklahoma County Assessor's Office to confirm that there is no existing easements for the 7-Eleven and the car wash that's next to it. Next slide, please. The Northwest 10th Street project will be constructed as planned between Council Road and Rockwell Avenue. Sidewalk along the south side of 10th Street was previously constructed. So the sales tax project will complete the pedestrian facilities along this section of 10th Street. Similar to the Meridian project, this project will have some right-of-way conflicts and issues with utilities. However, this project will have we will have to work around a small drainage area and design a new retaining wall. Next slide, please. This project has more right-of-way conflicts, but was expected because the limits are longer than the Meridian project. The ends of the projects are at the already widened intersections, so the right-of-way will need to be extended to provide for the 5-foot sidewalk. We have started communication with the Western Oak Shopping Center owner, and planning staff has reached out to the restaurant and the gas station on the Council Road end of the project. The retaining wall parcels will be contacted after we confirm that no right-of-way easements exist, and the parcels that only need driveways will be contacted after the next level of plans are developed to confirm the right-of-way setback. The driveway setback distance, excuse me. Next slide, please. The existing retaining wall is located east of Bradley Avenue. There are currently 2 walls in place, a wooden retaining wall, and then in front of that is a stone block wall. Our design will use the city's standard retaining wall, but we will have to work with OG&E to make sure that our design doesn't violate any of their engineering standards. As you can see on the slide, the retaining wall details show to construct the foot behind the wall. But if we run into any issues with OG&E, we can use a different standard that places the footing on the curb side of the wall. Next slide, please. The Meridian budget is $729,148 with a construction estimate of $359,356. We believe the right-of-way cost could be around $60,000 for a total proposed budget of $419,356. The 10th Street budget is $600,475 with a construction estimate of $632,908. And we believe the right-of-way cost could be about $75,000 for a total proposed budget of $707,908. Next slide. And with that, if anybody has any questions I could answer.
Any question? Josh, thank you very much. That brings us, I believe, 3C, which is a status update on sidewalk projects. Lakeisha?
Yes, thank you, Mr. McKnight. Thank you, Josh. Excuse me. I will now be doing the status update on 3C sidewalk projects. Next slide. Okay. You can go back one slide. The status on the sidewalk projects, we're looking at the parks projects. We had about 7 projects that are all, 6 of the 7 projects are all complete. One is at 85% complete, which is the E.W. Perry Park project. And then we have 1 park project that has not started construction yet, and that's the Britton Park project. And we'll get a status on that by next month. For the PPA sidewalk projects, 2 out of the 8 projects are still under construction. So we have 2, 4, 6, 7 projects that are complete. Excuse me, 6 projects that are complete, and 2 projects. The Windsor area part 2 is at 93% complete, and the Penn at 44 project is at 86% complete. The transit projects, we've got 2 of those transit area projects, and 1 of those is complete, and the other transit phase 2 projects is at 80% complete. And then the school projects, all but 1 is at 90% complete. The Raft Downs Elementary School is at 90% complete, and all of the other projects are completed or working on a punch list. And then the downtown sidewalk projects have not started construction yet, and I believe we're still at about 65% design for those. So CEC is making extreme headway with our sidewalk projects, and it looks like they'll be, they're kind of getting close to wrapping up everything that we have allocated in funding so far. And as you could see from that slide earlier that Brock presented, I think we're about 96% allocated on funding on that. So we will work with the consultant to identify the funding status to make sure and see if we have any give backs on that, and then to determine if we need to do any additional allocations for our sidewalk projects. At this time, are there any questions on the status of our sidewalk projects? Okay, so hearing none, I will now proceed on to item 3C2, and that puts us with where we are with this slide for recommending South Lake Elementary Sidewalk Project for funding. And as you recall, at our last month's meeting, I brought to you for an information item the status of the East Lake Elementary School project, where the residences on the south side requested that we do not install the sidewalk on the south side that was originally planned for this project. And as a result of that, there's about $80,000 that was available and give back from the East Lake Elementary School. And about the same time as the residences near the East Lake Elementary School requested not to install the sidewalk, staff received a request to install sidewalk across the street from the South Lake Elementary School elementary school, where we had not originally planned to install sidewalk. And so I brought to you for an information item last month, these two requests. And so this month, we'd like to bring back to you the recommendation to fund the South Lake Elementary School sidewalk. The cost of the South Lake sidewalk construction was estimated at about $40,000. And so you may have noticed that there might be a slight discrepancy in the numbers in the amount that's in the agenda versus what's in the implementation plan. And so I want to explain that we estimated the construction for the sidewalk to be about $40,000. And then once this amount was added to the implementation budget sheet, the addition of the soft costs for administration, testing, and the contingency set the overall budget at $51,717. So there was a slight error in conveying this total to, between the agenda memo and the implementation budget, but the implementation budget sheet is the correct amount that we are recommending at this time for the South Lake Elementary School sidewalk. So with that said, that is a recommendation at this time. Thank you.
This requires a vote.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Yes, it was.
Go ahead, Chairman, sorry.
I'm sorry, it was, the motion was moved by Don Noble and seconded by Steve Dixon. And Jason, you need to verbally cast your vote, please.
Yay.
That passes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lakeisha.
Thank you.
Next item is 3D bicycle facilities. D1 would be status update.
And that is me again. Thank you, Mr. McKnight. For our bicycle facilities status update, I'll just be reporting that striping and installation of delineators continues on both Walker and phase 1 of general purging. You can go to the next slide, please. Traffic management has approved the striping plan for phase 2 of general purging, which is from Main Street to Western, and which is on Main Street from Western to Lee. And we are working with the developer of the hotel and apartments to make sure that the design accommodates their need for a loading zone. Striping is anticipated to start on phase 2 within the next 30 days, and that's permitting weather. And we believe that all other bike projects are still in some state of design and review at this point. So I believe that's all I have at this time. Oh, I also will be bringing forward next month, we are looking at our next project to be likely the Lottie Avenue bike project. Thank you. This project was recently submitted to the ACOG, Association of Central Oklahoma Governments, to receive congestion mitigation air quality funding. The application actually is due by next week, and we could possibly receive up to $112,000, about $112,000, if granted the CMAQ award. And again, the CMAQ stands for Congestion Mitigation Air Quality. This will be an additional $112,000 that we're hoping, if awarded, it could go towards the construction of our Lottie Avenue project. This project, again, is also underfunded currently with our sales tax monies. We do need to come back and request a budget adjustment. It needs an additional $500,000. And so if the CMAQ project is awarded, that will help reduce that request of additional $500,000, about $500,000. So I just wanted to bring that kind of also as an information item at this time, to let you know that that'll likely be the next bicycle project that we hopefully will get moving forward relatively soon. The CMAQ application is due November 6th, and it may be, I believe, about January before we know whether or not we will receive those fundings, if we're awarded that funding. Next slide, please. Yes, I believe that ends my report on the status of bicycle facility update. Are there any questions at this time on bicycle facility projects?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. So regarding the, I'm sorry, I guess I can turn my video back on here. So regarding the Lottie plan that was shown here, is this to be protected bike lane? What's being planned here?
For a good portion of it, yes. This is just a sample of the design, and the project extends from 4th Street all the way up to 23rd Street, which is a good distance. And there is the lower section of the image that you see here includes on-street parking. So where there's going to be on-street parking, we will not be able to install delineators. And that's so it will be buffered. There will be a buffer, but we will not be able to install the delineators, which is what denotes whether it's protected or not. So particularly in the sections where there will be on-street parking, we will not be able to install the delineators. However, where there will not be any parallel on-street parking, we will try to install the delineators as much as possible.
Okay, and so in regards to the areas where there's on-street parking, and again, it's kind of hard to read here because I think it's just lining the things out. But is there the potential to have the bike lane on the inside of the on-street or parallel parking versus the outside, so that the cars are parked would act as a buffer from traffic?
There's a two-part answer to your question. There is potential, yes. However, staff is currently working on updating the city ordinance to allow for that to happen. We currently are in the middle of that process, and it could take a couple more months before we complete that process in order to make it an opportunity for us to allow that to happen. And so yes, there is potential that we could do that, but as the ordinance currently stands, it does not. So it's really a timing issue, and it's whether or not we want to postpone the project in order to allow that to happen, and then again, we would have to have the consultant to literally change the design. And so that takes some work also for the consultant to make those changes in the design to accommodate that request.
Yeah, so it seems like, just based on my limited knowledge, and normally it feels like I'm impersonating Mr. Carfang, who I don't think is with us today, but it seems like Lottie from 13th to 23rd in particular, where there are cutouts, but maybe a limited number of cutouts, it would be preferential probably on both sides. Because otherwise, a lot of that parallel parking, I think, especially as that street and the Lottie corridor becomes more activated, we're actually going to be pulling cars into the bike lane a lot more frequently, right? If we have that on-street parking. So it seems like it might be preferable on both sides to look at that as an option. And it feels like, I mean, as long as we've had to wait, it might be worthwhile, because I think that design could both set a nice precedent for the future. But I think, and again, obviously the experts would know better than me, but I think that this might be a good corridor, like I say, from 13th to 23rd, to see what that looks like, and to see how effective that kind of bike strategy or bike infrastructure strategy could be.
Yes, thank you for that comment, and we will definitely communicate on that. Are there any other questions regarding the status of bicycle facility updates? Okay, hearing none, that completes my update at this time. Thank you, Mr. McKnight.
Thank you, Lakeisha. Appreciate that very much. Next item is 3E trails. Number one is.
Brock. Oh, sorry. This is Brock. I'll give the status construction update. As we know, some of the projects are already kind of complete and substantially complete. We have Burke Cooper, Lake Overholster, Hefner to Overholster are all completed projects. One of the Dell agreement on the South Oklahoma River Trail has been put in place and everything accepted. And so we hope that construction can get started really quick and we can finish that segment out, and we'll be complete with the South Oklahoma River Trail, and then we'll immediately jump to the North Oklahoma River Trail. And one item of note is that the Katy Trail, we have given the work order out and construction has started on that. So hopefully that will finish, in a short time through the winter, and hopefully be completed by next spring. And that's really all the updates I have for the projects that are in construction, if anybody has any questions. If there's no questions, then I'll turn it over to the Assistant Parks Director, Melinda McMillan Miller.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. I'm Melinda McMillan Miller, your Assistant Director of Parks and Recreation. We wanted to bring back to the committee this time the item that you heard last month about the Deep Fork Trail update for a funding request. Next slide, please. As you see from the trail, each of the phases has been estimated for its construction cost. Again, this is a project that will be led by ODOT. They are actually in their phases now of doing their NEPA studies and other last minute studies they have to do. So we're hoping that by next spring we'll have something more intact to be able to bring back to you at that time. But in order to make this trail happen, we have proposed to the committee about the addition of $8 million added to the project cost. Next slide, please. And we can just keep rolling the slides if you don't mind. Again, phase one was that connection between Grand Boulevard to Kelly Avenue. Next slide. From Kelly Avenue then to Lincoln Boulevard will be phase two, which will go through a lot of deeply wooded areas just south of the Deep Fork River. Phase three is the connection from Lincoln Boulevard through the interchange of I-235. And then phase four will connect there, pick up again at just west of I-235 and go through an area that we have already dubbed Canyon Park that will connect down to Zachary Taylor Park and just come out underneath I-44 spur over there and up to Grand Boulevard. And then phase five, which will be the back of curb connection from up Grand Boulevard up to Nichols Hills. So the 5 phases altogether is a very large budget, of course, but we're hoping that our bids come in well, and with the additional, if the committee approves, the additional $8 million added to this project will be a very large benefit to making this actual project happen. Are there any questions about the project from the committee?
I have a few questions about this, and actually the previous report as well. But let's start with this one. Deep Fork. So is this all? Is the trail all taking place in like publicly land or right of way. It sounds like we are creating sort of park, at least I guess park land, at least in you talked about the Canyon Park and some of the overlooks. So is that all on public land?
The majority is, and we are going after right of way in a couple of locations. And Public Works can speak more clearly about those exact locations of where the right of way comes into play, or where ODOT property is, impacted a lot with this trail too. So it's kind of a mixture between needing to seek some right of way, ODOT properties, and the city's properties all combined.
Okay.
A lot of different locations. It's really a hodgepodge of how it's all connected.
But all government entities, like there's not any land acquisition that is anticipated to take place.
That's correct. No, sir. There's no land acquisition that we need to do with this. We were looking at that at one time with one of the routes, but it was going to add more cost to the project, and so we were able to mitigate that by going around and doing a little bit different path to lower that cost there.
Okay, and then my second question is kind of related to this and the well, actually, I'll ask the question about the Katy Trail, and then because my last question kind of is remarking on both. But could you remind me just briefly on like the scope of what's being done with the Katy Trail here? Is it a repaving, or is it other enhancements or improvements?
Katy Trail is repaving, and Brock, if you want to
Okay.
weigh in, feel free. But yeah, Katy Trail is a repaving project. The amenities and on-street access to the Katy Trail, or better access into the neighborhoods, will be dealt with through impact fees, park impact fees, or working with the planning department on finding other sources of funds through grants, for example, to make those neighborhood connections possible. I can tell you that we are currently working on a neighborhood connection in the Parks Department through trail impact fees that will connect Creston Hills Park to the Katy Trail right there off of Miramar Boulevard.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I know you guys mentioned that last time, and I'm excited to see you all proactively engaging there. I think it'll be good for that Creston Hills area to kind of make that connection point. So that's exciting. Okay, thank you. So my last question is just, again, kind of more of an update, maybe for my benefit, because I try to keep track of where we are with these things. But will these efforts include the additional signage and wayfinding that we kind of talked about way back when in this process?
Yes, it will. So when we complete the Deep Fork Trail, part of the cost for the Deep Fork Trail is including its trail wayfinding and signage, which has been planned, designed, and is out for bid. So I think it's out for bid. Public Works can correct me on that. Okay. But yes, it will be signed as well. So it will all match the full 90 miles of all the trail system, off-street trail system in the city will be signed the same way.
All right. Thank you, Melinda. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. No problem. Thank you, Ms. Thompson.
Melinda, this is Hal McKnight. Thank you for that information. That's a great question, Sandino, about the trail signage. I think our city certainly will need that, and the signage will be both for trail etiquette, trail safety, as well as mileage, and it will be done uniform on all the trails. We have yet to experience that. It's a great need, and I think this Deep Fork Trail is going to be just incredibly wonderful. I think it's going to benefit citizens for many years to come. So really appreciate all the work the city has done on this, and hope that we can move this forward and that ODOT will put it in high gear and get this to be a reality.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? This does require a vote. This has been moved by Sandino Thompson and seconded by Jim LaHue.
Mr. Johnston, how do you vote?
Yay.
Mr. Chair, would you like to verbally vote?
Yes, I lost my screen there. Yes, I would like to vote yes. Aye. Very good. That passes. Thank you. Next item is 3F, implementation plan.
Mr. McKnight, this is Mike Clark again. The November implementation plan update consists of 2 items, a budget sheet for South Lake Elementary sidewalk and a budget revision for the Deep Fork Trail. The combined allocation for these 2 items is $8,051,717. The board is asked to receive this update and recommend its approval to the City Council. With that, I will try to answer any questions that you have.
Are there any questions for Mike? This also requires a vote, please. This has been moved by Sandino Thompson and seconded by Jim LaHue.
Mr. Johnston, how do you vote?
Yay.
Mr. Thompson, do you have voting buttons? Perfect.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can. Thank you.
This item has passed. Thank you. Next item is 4, financial report.
Hello, this is Erica Vanderslypen with the Budget Office, and I'm just here to go over the latest numbers for the Better Street, Safer City Tax Financial Summary. We have collected revenues to date of $261,363,251. That includes interest of $5.6 million on top of the $255.7 million in sales taxes. We have current allocations of $237.6 million and total expenditures to date of $111.8 million. And that is the financial summary for October 2020.
Thank you, Erica. This does require a vote to accept these numbers. This has been moved by Steve Dixon and seconded by Don Noble. Please cast your votes.
Mr. Johnston, how do you vote?
Yay.
Very good. This motion passes, or this agenda item passes. Thank you, Erica.
Thank you.
Next, number 5, director's report.
This is Brock. I had a couple items that I was going to go over. I won't do near as good a job as Eric will, but there was a couple items that we had kind of that we were thinking of. At this particular time, we don't have any substantial items that we need to be voted on. So we're probably looking to not have a December meeting. And so the other item that I wanted to point out was that on November 24th, the state of emergency proclamation will end. And so our January meeting will be in person. We'll be back in the council chambers. And as you know, the council chambers has been revamped and everything. And it's been coordinated that way. It's in a safe environment and everybody has the proper spacing and stuff. So those were the 2 major items that I had. And if Jeff had any additional items.
Hi, this is Jeff Butler. I don't have any additional items unless there are questions. Like Brock was saying, there's There's a lot that's been done to the council chamber, so we'll be getting more information to you on how to interact with the technology and the safety measures that have been put in place. So happy to answer any questions.
I have a question for you, gentlemen. This is Hal tonight. So there will not be a December meeting. So wish everyone a great Christmas season. Does that mean that our Christmas party will then be held in January?
Yes, at your house, Hal.
Thank you.
My understanding.
I hope to have electricity. Thank you. Thank you. Any other serious questions?
Thank you for 2021.
No, we surely thank y'all for everything that y'all have done, and we sure do appreciate it.
Thank you. Next item, number 6, comments. 6A are comments from the board.
Well, so I got just a quick comment. Again, since I guess we're not going to meet before the year is up, so I would also extend happy holidays to everybody. Appreciate the work of the city staff. You guys, it's evident in this project, in this process. Hopefully, we're doing some good things for the city, and also as somebody who is experienced the worst and the best and worst maybe of the weather the last week or so. I know that Public Works and I'm sure planning and others have been pretty involved in what it looks like for that. So my sort of hats off to you guys. I think this is probably the when you really get a chance to earn your titles, your roles, your paycheck, or whatever it is, because I know it's a lot of craziness that you guys will have to deal with over the next probably the next couple of months as we clean up from this ice storm and deal with lack of services and utilities that people have been struggling through. So anyway, appreciate you guys' efforts. It's good to know that that we have a lot of competency in the city staff for following through with that. Now we'll just try and get that to translate over to OG&E, and we'll really be in good shape.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? This is Hal McKnight. I'd certainly like to echo the same thing Sandino was saying. Greatly appreciate all the help and work from city staff on all those meetings. I think it greatly benefited our city. Certainly appreciate the board being as involved and spending as much time. My late grandmother always talked to me about raising a barn. She'd lost her barn. She lived in the country. And I said, what do you mean raising a barn? And she said, well, you'd build 4 sides and then your community and your neighbors and your family would help actually raise each piece of that. And we see a lot of that in Oklahoma City. A lot of folks are helping their neighbors. Please, let's continue to do that. That's part of our code in this state. Any other comments from board? Thank you. Any comments from staff? And then that brings us to 6C. Any comments from citizens today?
Mr. Chair, no one has signed up that I am aware of.
Oh, thank you, Mickey. Greatly appreciate everyone's effort. Please stay safe, and hopefully it's too cold for the locusts. I guess that's the only thing we haven't experienced. Thank you, everyone. This meeting is adjourned. See you in January.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.